Welcome, everyone, to the Love Notes podcast. Love is an acronym for lifting others through vision and empowerment. It was born out of an epiphany that it takes 6 to 8 pallbearers to lift you up at the end of your life. And I thought, what if we were intentional about lifting others while they are alive? How impactful would that be? Love Notes podcast with Jackie is my answer to that question. A love note is used to improve a relationship. My vision for the podcast is that viewers will hear something that will help them improve their relationship with themselves or with someone they love. I am Jackie Williams, your host. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I have three very special guests, and we will talk about adverse childhood experiences. They will share their journey in hopes of supporting someone on theirs. Joining me is Dr. Natalie Williams Awodeha. Natalie, please tell the viewers a little about yourself.
Yes, I teach at 3 universities. I teach full-time at California State University in Los Angeles. And then I teach part-time remotely at two other institutions, Southern Illinois University in their Applied Behavior Analysis program. And then I also teach online for National University in their Applied Behavior Analysis program.
Thank you. And Dr. Natalie is my niece. She's the daughter of my sister, Mia. Kendria Porter, tell the listeners a little about yourself.
Again, my name is Kendria Porter. I'm from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, but I was raised in Little Rock. I have 3 small kids. I'll be graduating in May with my associate's degree, and then I'll be attending UTA in August. I also work for a financial institution, and then I have my business that I run full-time as well, which includes parties and different treat favors, different things like that.
Thank you. Charity Lindsay. Charity, please tell the listeners a little about yourself.
I am a mother and a student UALR. I'm working towards my LCSW so I can be a therapist, and that's that.
So Kendria is the niece, the daughter, and the granddaughter of a family that really played a pivotal role in my life. And Charity is my favorite daughter. So Natalie, what is the survey, ACEs? And what can you tell us about adverse childhood experiences?
Yes, so the ACEs survey, as you mentioned, adverse childhood experiences, it's a set of 10 questions that ask individuals, have you experienced fill in the blank before the age of 18? And so it asks about things that a person might have gone through directly, whether it be physical, sexual, verbal abuse, but it also asks questions about things that may have happened in the household, like did they have a family member who was incarcerated? Or did they witness their mother survive domestic violence or intimate partner violence? Also questions like, was there a family member in the household who has severe mental illness? So things that would impact a person's development as they grew older. There's a lot of research out there that shows an ACEs score of 4 or higher might lead to adverse outcomes later in life. And the higher the score, the more severe those risk factors are. But then there's also studies that show a score of even as high as 2 could put a person at risk. But it's not all bad news, because there are protective factors, meaning the impact of support systems or even a significant adult mentor could mitigate the propensity for those risks.
Thank you for that. So I am one of 10 children, and I also have a foster sister. And I had all of my siblings and my foster sister to complete the survey. And our scores range from 1 to 8. And we all grew up in the same household, all except my foster sister. I also had my children. I have two children. I had my son and my daughter to fill it out. My son scored a 3, and he lost his father when he was 9 years old. So I kind of understood his score. But Charity scored a 7, and we talked about it, and she shared some things that helped me to understand her a little better and her experiences. Charity, can you share some of the things that you told me about your score and your experiences?
Well, um, you and my father were separated, so I did have different in different households. So that made for a few of the points. And also, when I was in school, we did a class that talked about this in a little more depth or detail, and we took a longer test. And there's some things that I also took into consideration about like smaller or more miscellaneous things that we wouldn't have considered on that test, but I mentioned it before when we did talk. It was the fact that we moved a lot because she was my mom. You were married to well, you are married to a soldier, so we moved around a lot, and that was very impactful for me. So upon different factors as well. And yeah, it was just some little things that seem little, but they did impact me quite a bit.
Thank you, Charity. So, Kendria, can you share your score and what you thought of the survey?
Yes. Once I've never heard of the test until you asked me to take it. Once I did take it, it made me realize small things, small things that happened in my life to make me the person that I am today. But I did score a 6. I didn't know if it was too high or too low, but once I spoke with you, I was able to understand a lot more. Yeah, the test brings out a lot of different emotions and feelings, makes you think back on different reasons and things that happened to you, or that you may have experienced.
I agree with you on that. Even when I took it for myself, and then it kind of made me think about our childhood and my siblings. So,
Mhm.
Dr. Natalie, how can individuals live in the same household and their childhood experiences be so different?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm glad that you had your siblings take it. I have a ACEs score of 6 and my mom's score is 8, but prior to you doing this, I wouldn't have known that my mom's score was 8. So I appreciate that information. But there's a lot of different factors. When you think about the age ranges of siblings, there's research that shows that sometimes different siblings within the same house might be experiencing a whole different family dynamic, especially if their ages are more than 7 to 8 years apart. Because if you think about how folks are moving in and out of the household, so if there's a huge age range between siblings, the family dynamic may have changed over the years. Like, let's say parents were together and then they were separated, or new children being born, or family members getting older. Like, for example, in my family, my youngest sibling had an entirely different experience than we did because he was the last one in the house. But then he also saw the worst parts of the family dynamic between his father and my mother after the majority of us were already gone and out of the household. So just that nature of time. But then also you think about resiliency factors within particular individuals. Just like we know that the ACEs score is not a crystal ball, it doesn't necessarily predict, but the research shows that there's relationships between higher scores and the future outcomes that a person may experience. But we're not a blank slate. We come into this world with different strengths, abilities, but we also, some of us come into this world with certain deficits as well, whether that be physical, mental, social, or otherwise. So because we're not necessarily a blank slate, the things that we experience, two people could go through the same thing, but can experience it or see it very differently based off of who they are and what they might have gone through previously.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So what did your adverse childhood experiences teach you? And any of you can answer this, and all of you if you like. Did they teach you to help you with where you are in your life now? And Natalie mentioned resiliency. So what did your experience teach you?
I feel like my experience taught me that I really can accomplish anything, whether it's small or big. No matter what the obstacle is, it's like I can achieve anything. I don't know. I mean, I feel like if it's anything I want, I can go and get it. It just doesn't matter what the case may be, whether it's a job, just different experiences with people, friends, family. I just feel like I can just get through anything.
And I think the same for me. I was the middle child, so that was kind of a dynamic within itself that Natalie was kind of mentioning, depending on where you fell there. And my score was a 4, but I had to kind of cater or respect my older siblings and then kind of be more responsible and teach the younger ones. So it definitely taught me diplomacy and how to kind of be more of a mediator, because I was kind of mediating between the older and the younger ones. So it definitely taught me resilience. Sherry, would you like to share?
It really opened my eyes because there's sometimes, you can be on autopilot. So you can just go through life and not even realize that you did go through something that, you might need to talk to someone about or just check on and figure out how to move forward with that. So yeah, it just opened my eyes a little bit to things that did happen.
Yeah, I would agree with what all of you all said. And on mine too, the biggest thing that comes to mind for me is I feel like really my worst days are behind me, because my siblings and I, we reflect on a lot of things that we went through as children, but honestly not as much as my mom. She still is moving through and working through some of the things, but now it makes sense, knowing what her score is, how for folks with higher scores, it can be a little bit more difficult to move forward, depending on, what resources are available and how people are engaging in their own healing journey. So it is true that sometimes people might feel stuck or feel like that, especially nowadays with so much going on social media. A lot of folks are really identifying with their trauma, and some folks are wearing it as a badge of honor in terms of like identifying as like, I'm a traumatized person. But then there's other people who are disassociating or distancing themselves from what they've been through and saying, no, that's something that I went through, but it's not who I am. So I've been a part of both camps, but now I'm more so like, these were things that I went through and they made me who I am, but that traumatized person is not who I am today.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Thank you for sharing that. Because when I was filling out the survey, some things I wanted to say yes to, but it wasn't my experience. It was things that, I heard my siblings say. So I do agree with you that my worst days are behind me as well. That's definitely how I feel as a result of the survey. What can Dr. Natalie, what can families do? How can someone support a person? For example, someone that has that 8 score. How can they support them in a positive way that will be able to help them to move forward in life?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things. So first, I would say starting with current children, we can be mindful of the things that they're experiencing. I know for my sibling that also has children, I'm constantly reminding him, remember all those things that we remember, and now we're in our 30s. Our children are going to be remembering and thinking about what we did when they're in their 30s. So it can help us be more mindful of that for the folks who are parents or who are playing active roles in the life of a child. So it can force us to kind of get ourselves together so we're not re-traumatizing anybody else. But then for people who are adults who've already, have been through things in their life, we could take what's called a trauma assumed approach to our loved ones. And if we're in, helping professions, we can assume that everybody has been through some things, because we all have, even if just one or two of those things on the list. Like Charity was saying, there's even things that are not on that list that we should be mindful of and consider. And I know it's easier said than done, but just treating people with care, really just treating people with that level of gentleness and care and support, but then serving as that protective factor and taking care of ourselves while we also try to support others.
Thank you. And Kendria and Charity, you're both parents. Based on what Natalie just said, what's your thoughts on that in terms of parenting, what you know now about ACEs and your experience?
I actually agree with her. I just think just taking a different approach, as she stated, as far as like having genuine conversations and not just rushing or blowing anything off. Because it doesn't seem important to you because you have experienced it, doesn't mean that it's not important to that child.
Yes, I agree. I don't really have much to add, but basically, yes, just giving them grace and not being too anything. Just make sure you're catering to them and paying attention, basically. Really pay attention to them, even the smallest things, and get ahead of it while you can, and don't just live on autopilot, like I was saying.
And that pay attention is important. One of the questions is something similar to, did you feel special? Or like people cared about you or whatever when you were growing up. So paying attention will help them to feel special, especially if you have several children. You want to kind of separate them and not just always think of them as a group. They are individuals. So that's one thing that I take away from that. What advice would any of you give your younger self that was growing up and going through that adverse childhood experience that perhaps you didn't even know you were going through at the time, but now that you reflect back on it, what advice would you give your younger self or a young person that may be having some difficulties?
It gets better. Oh, sorry.
Go
You
ahead.
can go ahead. Oh, I'm just thinking like really tough times don't last. It gets better over time. You just have to really believe in yourself. Understand the goal, even though the goal may not be as easy as you think it is or how you plan. I don't know how my life would be had it went as I planned it. But yeah, just never give up. Always believe in yourself.
I would tell my younger self to speak up, girl. Sometimes people can't read your mind. They don't understand, they don't know what you're going through. So speak up and say something, or speak up for yourself if no one else is able to speak up for you. Just speak up, girl.
That's good advice. That's good advice that both of you shared. It does get better, and it may not seem like it. And when I think about people that commit suicide, that's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So at that moment, it's that temporary problem, and they don't see, a solution to it. But suicide is permanent. Closing remarks, takeaways. We will start with Charity, then Kendria, and we'll let Dr. Natalie close us out with any closing remarks or what you want to leave a person with?
I just want to encourage all listeners to, like your mission statement says, you don't want to be a pallbearer lifting them up. So lift them up while they are here. Give them their flowers while they're here. I love to encourage people and tell them about themselves and just, hey, I love how you're doing this and how you're doing that. You can do it in small ways and just tell them, let them know they're special like that. And if you see anything, don't be on standby watching things happen. Step in if you can, however you can, even if it's just small words of encouragement so that they know that they are seen and they're not going through things alone.
One thing I would take away from this is basically giving yourself grace, not assuming just because someone is doing something that they're not having these different experiences or life-changing events. Just being a friend, having genuine conversations, just basically being someone that you want to be in your life.
This has been really, really helpful. And thank you for doing this. My final thought is, for me, I would just say, especially for young people, sometimes there's a rush or a push for young people who are going through negative events or negative experiences. You're like, oh, I can't wait till I get grown, can't wait till I get grown. But then we don't necessarily think about the struggles that happen in adulthood too. And I know as a kid, I was the one looking around at everybody else thinking that everybody's lives were better. And as I got older, I realized that wasn't the case, but I was really fantasizing about my future, like my future was going to be better. I had ideas and dreams, but I didn't necessarily have a plan. I just thought, oh, I could do better. I could do better. And like Kendria was saying, sometimes people make you think that, oh, if you do X, Y, and Z, everything's supposed to work out perfectly. And that's just not the reality of life. So sometimes we can daydream, which is good. It's good to daydream and explore, but just know that sometimes things are a bit more of a circle. You might start off, take a winding path, and then you might circle back to where you initially started. That's not a bad thing. But sometimes we might think that, oh, it's just going to be straight shot and everything will be fine and magically fixed. But that's not always the case.
Thank you.
Natalie,
Go ahead.
can I ask if you can share, you said once that analogy about the overflow. Could you share that again?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So a friend of mine who's an artist, her name is Changing Frequencies. And she talks about, so like when we think about people who want to go into helping professions or people who want to be of service to others, or even parents or whatever role you are, a lot of times we can give from ourselves and people say, okay, you can't pour from an empty cup or you can't pour from an empty bucket. Well, my friend Changing Frequencies says, give from your saucer. So like if you have a teacup that's sitting in a saucer, what's in your teacup, that's for you. But the overflow that spills over into your saucer, that's what you have the capacity to give to others. So thank you for mentioning that, Charity, because sometimes we can try to overdo it and then we end up with nothing for ourselves at the end of the day. So what's in your cup is for you, and what's your overflow is what you have to give to others.
Thank you. And as Charity stated, we need to give people their flowers while they are alive. So I want to say to Charity, I love you. I appreciate you. I see you. You are amazing. I want to say to Kendria, I see you. I love you. You are amazing. While I'm talking about her, I have this pen. She was my student in ninth grade at McClellan High School, Little Rock School District. And so I end up getting married and moving away. So I wanted to make sure that she was good. So I made sure that I talked to one of my friends and said, keep an eye on Kendria, make sure she's good, make sure you take care of her. And that she did. And I was in Hawaii, living in Hawaii, got a call years later from her mother, and she asked for my address. And I received in the mail this little pen, and it reads, "This pen symbolizes the difference that you made in my life. Thank you for brightening my future." And it's from Jostin, the people that make class rings and those types of things. And it has her name on it, Kendria Janelle Porter. You made a difference. And as an educator, this is absolutely what we live for. So I want to thank you again. This has brightened a lot of my days when I feel down in education. This is something that I look at. Sometimes I even wear it to remind me of why I do what I do.
And I
to my
appreciate you. I
niece,
really, really do. I really do appreciate you. Because you didn't have to. You just took me under your wing. You made sure I experienced different things, went on field trips when I wasn't supposed to. Even in the 9th grade, going with the seniors to Atlanta, Colorado, to the White House, just different things. So I really, really appreciate you. I still talk about you to this day. Even though you left early, but you still asked Ms. Golly to take me under her wing, and she did the same thing as you would do. So I really, really appreciate you.
you are welcome, and I see it paid off. I'm so proud of you.
Thank
And
you.
you're welcome. Last but not least, my niece, Dr. Natalie, you are definitely a person that, even though you're younger than me, I look up to you. You are amazing. I love you. I appreciate everything that you've done. She's always willing to help people. She gives definitely from her saucer. She probably gave of her cup sometimes, but I see that she's learned now to give of her overflow. But you are an amazing person, and I appreciate everything that you do for the family and for the community and your students as well. So thank you for being a great part of my life. So on that, we're going to wrap it up, and I thank each one of you for joining me tonight. And to the listeners, I hope that you heard something that you can take away from this that will help you. If you found this beneficial, share it with someone that could benefit from it. And I ask you to subscribe to my channel and share this video. Thank you for joining us.